Hello and welcome back to Twinhammer, everybody. Today we are very excited to be giving you our Volkus tier list. So we are going to be going through all of the kill teams and telling you which ones are the strongest on Volkus, the Lords of Volkus, and which ones have no inbuilt Volkus tech. This will hopefully give you a really good perspective on which teams have certain advantages when you're facing them on Volkus, so you know what to look out for. Before we get into things, just a reminder, we have a 10% discount code with Crossfire Games. They offer an incredible array of kill team accessories, which make your kill team games far more enjoyable. From dice trays to card organizers to score trackers, we highly recommend you check out these incredible products. All right. Let's get into things. So we're going to start with Angels of Death. So Angels of Death, we are going to be placing into the C tier, no Volkus tech plus slow. The only thing they can do is take ladders to help them out on Volkus. All right, let's get into a very interesting one, which is Battleclade. So they're generally slow, so you might think, okay, C- would be a good place for them to go. But then you're like, oh, actually, Dataslay gave them 2 extra inches of movement. They can kind of network counteract themselves around. So that might make them C+. But they actually have the Breacher who can place a hole in the wall. So they're going to be the first one to go into wall breakers. You can do a really interesting thing with them too, where you get the Breacher to break a hole in the wall on one of the, let's say, fortresses on Volkus turn 1. Then top of turn 2, you use their inbuilt equipment to swap the Breacher with another operative in another place on Volkus, and then you can then breach a wall in that other spot. So really good way of quickly getting the Breacher to multiple parts of the map so you can kind of create these asymmetric threats. Really interesting tech there. Okay, another really interesting one here, Blades of Cain. I've included 2 images here for Blades of Cain. And the reason is because if you take Banshees, especially mono Banshees, they're going to be going into the A+ tier because Banshees have access to a super climb drop then that essentially allows them to fly over terrain and get these asymmetric charges. They can also just use it to reposition with a fly as well. So really good. If you take mono Banshees, you can do it twice per turn. So that's excellent. If you just include some Banshees, you're going to still have access to do it once per turn. If you take no Banshees, we're going to just place Blades of Cain in C+, because they're fast. They still have that inbuilt 7-inch move, but they have no other Volkus tech besides that. Blooded, we're going to just put the first of the declassifieds. They have no inbuilt Volkus tech. All right, so let's look at Brood Brothers. They do have access to a super climb drop strategy ploy, which allows them to ignore the first 2 inches of vertical distance when climbing. So does give them that ability to kind of vault over these 2-inch parts of Volkus walls, which can be really quite good and give them that little extra boost on Volkus that you wouldn't be expecting. That combined with an out of phase dash firefight ploy can make them quite explosive on Volkus in a way that you wouldn't be expecting. Deathcore of Krieg, they're just going to go into the declassified with Blooded, no inbuilt tech on Volkus. They do have ability to kind of get a little bit extra movement. So actually I placed them above Blooded because they do have a little bit of way of getting extra movement with move, and into the breach. Okay, so let's get into Canoptek Circle. Canoptek Circle are going to go into the A- category of wall phasers and breakers as well, because they can phase through walls. With their ability from the Geomancer, can make one of their operatives basically just ignore a wall and just charge or just reposition right through it. So very powerful there. You got to watch out for that there. All right, Celestial Incendiants, one of the new teams from the Shadowhunt box. We are going to be putting them into C+, because they do have access with Exigence, Benediction, and one of their firefight ploys to actually get an extra inch of movement. They can be quite explosive when they want to be in a really interesting way. So no inbuilt actual Volkus tech, but they do have some movement tricks. Okay, let's get into Chaos Cult. Chaos Cult are a very interesting choice. We're actually going to be putting them in the A+ tier. And the reasons for this is they do have some accursed gifts that they can give to their mutants and torments to allow them to basically have a super climb and ignore drop. I believe it's winged or winged, if you wanted to say. And this will allow their most powerful operatives, their torments, to basically be able to climb for 2 and drop for free, which is incredibly powerful. And this can make them quite good on Volkus when you weren't expecting. Also, the Mind Witch can basically burn your guys through the actual terrain because you just measure from the marker. So you could have a bunch of operatives hiding behind heavy, but then the Mind Witch could still damage them with her token through the actual terrain, which is something to look out for too. Corsairs with the Shade Runner and with inbuilt dashes and 7-inch move are going to go to the top of declassified because they can face through walls with the Shade Runner, and they are quite fast just generally, and have access to a free dash before the turn starts, which can give them a huge charge bomb. So they're going to go to the top of declassified for now. All right, Death Watch. Death Watch are another interesting team. They have a lot of different operas they can choose from. If you take the Head Taker, we are going to put them in the B category because the Head Taker has access to the super climb and drop. It is really specific to that one operative though, so that's why we're not going to put it in A+. A+ are generally team-wide, have these super climb drops. B, we're going to put them into limited advantages if you take the Head Taker. If you don't take the Head Taker, they're definitely going into C- with no inbuilt advantages, and they are quite slow in terms of having no movement tricks, very honest. Okay, declassified, we are going to put the Star Striders just firmly above. Actually, we're just going to put them right in the middle of things. They're not too crazy with movement, so we're just going to put them in the declassified there. All right, let's go with Exaction Squad, one of my main teams, one of my favorite teams. I'm going to have to put them firmly in C-. They have no movement tricks. They're very honest. They're going to have to climb over anything. Best you can do is take ladders. So just firmly in C-. They're going to have to position really well and carefully to make sure that they can get to objectives on Volkus without exposing themselves too much, which is the tricky part of the team. All right, now let's go with Far Stalker Kinband, and they are going to be going straight into the A+ category because they have the bound strategy ploy, which is almost the exact, I think it is the exact same as the Brood Brothers strategy ploy, which allows them to ignore the first 2 inches of vertical climb, which can make them quite explosive on Volkus. I'm going to put them just underneath Brood Brothers because Brood Brothers have the access to out of phase dashes. So just below Brood Brothers here. All right, let's go to Felgor. And Felgor are very interesting because they do have some tricks. So I'm just going to put them actually into C+, top of C+. They have no inbuilt kind of particular climbing tricks, but they do have access to strategy phase dash, which is extremely powerful even on the first turn, which a lot of people don't realize. They're one of the few teams that can actually do pre-game dashes, and quite a lot of them can. And they have access to increase their charge distance by 1. So they've got quite a bit of movement tricks, so it allows them to get around Volkus that bit easier. Okay, Gellerpox, they're going straight to the bottom of declassified. 5-inch move generally, no real movement tricks on them. Find it hard to get around. So you're going to have to position well with them. Believe they can barge through operatives, but that's about the best they can do, I believe. All right, Goremongers are going to go into B, limited advantages, because they do have the Stalker operative, I believe, which can basically have a super climb, and that gives them some asymmetric threat on Volkus, and they're just generally quite fast as well, with the ability to kind of get little bursts of movement. So they can be quite good, but they can't face through walls or break walls, so they're going to go into B. Hand of the Archon, we're going to put into C+ tier because they're just generally fast. 7-inch move, those 10-inch charge range basically can be quite effective, and 9-inch charge plus 1-inch control range can catch you off guard if you're not expecting it. And then the move dash shoot that they can just basically have with the 7-inch can be quite good as well. So they're going to go into, they have no ability to kind of get a dash except when they get a kill. So they're just going to go firmly into C+. All right, Hearthkin Salvagers are an incredibly interesting pick on Volkus now because they have 5-inch moves, so you'd be tempted to put them towards the bottom, but actually they're going to go into A+, because they now have their climbing gear equipment in the most recent data slate has actually given them the ability to get a super climb and ignore dropping. So they can basically go all the way to the top of Volkus if they wanted to for very little movement and then drop for free. So they almost got built-in graph shoots now. So really good. And then they can also take ladders on top of that if they do want to. So they just got a lot better on Volkus. Plus they have inbuilt fly with their jump pack warrior. So they're going to go nicely into A+. So a slow moving team generally, but now because of their climbing gear, they just basically go to A+. Let's take a look at the Harnkin Jaegers, the other dwarf team, other Leagues of Votann team. And they are going to go into, I would say, firmly top of C- because they do have the pre-game movement of 4 inches, which can be quite good. But after that, they just generally have 5-inch move and will struggle to get around. Their minds will help kind of channel their opponents into different areas that they want. But apart from that, it's not really too good for them on Volkus. Climbing Volkus is going to be really hard with 5-inch move. Okay, let's go into Hyrotech Circle are interesting because they have 5-inch move. They have the ability to be explosive, and they also have a ability to teleport an operative on guard, on silent, on advantage. So I think that's going to put them into A+ tier for me. Just that ability of getting one of their death marks just teleported onto advantage and then be guarding on silent with really dangerous profile, I think just gives them this edge on Volkus that you're not expecting if you haven't encountered them before. So I'm going to say that that puts them up there. All right, let's go to Hunter Clade. They do have some operatives that can get some better climb with good equipment. So we'll put them towards the top of the declassified. All right, so Navy Breachers, Imperial Navy Breachers. They're going to be going firmly into the A- category of wall breakers and phasers because they do have the hatch cutter operative, which can basically put a hole in the wall. They can also ignore accessible with a ploy, which can give them that extra inch of move you're not expecting. So they are going to go quite firmly into... Let's just have them in the bottom of A- for now. I think the phasing through the wall from Canoptic's is a little bit stronger. And Battleclade, we're going to put them actually below Canoptic as well because they're still more of a wall breaker. It's a little bit harder to get this set up. And then we're actually going to have Battleclade behind Breachers because Battleclade still have a 5-inch move, whereas Breachers can ignore accessible and have a 6-inch move there. All right, Inquisition, Inquisitorial Agents. We're going to actually put them just next to Breachers because they can take Breachers. So that gives them all the same advantages as Breachers. They would miss that ploy that can ignore the accessible, but they would have access to the hatch cutter. So that gives them that inbuilt wall breaking ability. Okay, Kazarkin, the team I've been playing the most recently. We're going to put them into C+. They do have ability to get a strat phase dash and then a move dash shoot with 7 inches. So they can be quite explosive when you're not expecting it. So that puts them into navigating Volkus quite well. You can easily wrap around the side of the map to hit your opponent in a way that they're not expecting and break their cover. So they are quite fast and explosive when they want to be. So really, really good there, but no inbuilt climbing tricks, just firmly near the top of C+ with Felgor. We're going to put Commandos. They've got Shush, which can give them some out of phase dash. So we're going to just put them near the Death Core of Krieg there. Legionary, we're going to put near the bottom. They have Slanesh, which can give them extra movement on some of their operatives, but apart from that, no real tricks. Mandrakes, okay, getting into the M category, we're starting to see some big players on Volkus here. Mandrakes, we are going to go to the top of A- because they have a wall phasing ability. They could just charge you through a wall, no problem. It has been just limited in the charge range now, but then they have an out of phase dash, which can give them extra range for charges too. So even without using their wall phasing ploy, they can be quite good with that 7-inch move plus an extra 3-inch dash and charge you when you're not expecting it. So really good there. They can also teleport around Volkus into heavy, into shadow, so that's going to put them quite high there. I think actually with their ability to teleport around, that's going to kind of put them into the A+ tier actually. So they've got a mix of the A- and A+ tier. So actually we're going to put them, I think because of those two things combined, we're going to put them into the A+ category here. All right. And now our first S tier, you could all have predicted it if you know a little bit about Murderwing so far. We are working on our Murderwing guide as well. We should have that out to you very, very soon. But Murderwing are S tier. I've played this past weekend, played 2 games against Murderwing on Volkus with the map that had the building in the middle where you could go on the top vantage, and they are just incredibly good with their boost. They can just ignore anything in front of them, any obstacles, any terrain. And they were able to charge me from their drop zone into the middle of the board. So they're just incredibly good on Volkus. They can just fly up into heavy cover and just create these asymmetric threats. Right now, they're the Lords of Volkus. They are just really good because of their boost ability. Okay, let's go into Nemesis Claw. Nemesis Claw, we're going to put into the C-, and we're going to put them above Angels of Death simply because they have like the Ventriloquar, which can measure through walls on Volkus. So you could put him in the corner of a building and then he can still do his Ventriloquar because he doesn't need visibility. So it can be quite powerful just to do his abilities from relative safety. So that's going to put them actually, they're a little bit less than Jaegers because Jaegers have that pregame move. But yeah, they're going to be top of C- here. Okay, let's go Novitiates. I don't think they have too much tech in terms of movement, so we're just going to put them into the declassified, kind of near mid-bottom. Pathfinders, they do have some movement tricks like recon sweep and things like that. We're going to place them kind of in the upper half there of declassified. Phobo Strike Team, going to go quite high. They have the ability to get graph shoots from the Reavers and can be quite mobile. So they're going to go there. Plague Marines are going to go bottom of C-, no inbuilt movement tricks, and just rely on their tankiness to kind of stay alive. 5-inch move generally. I'm going to go right to the bottom of C- tier for the classified teams. Okay, let's get into now Ratlings. Ratlings are a very interesting team because they do have some disadvantages and some advantages on Volkus. So we're going to actually put them into B limited advantages. They do have the Raider Operative, which can do this really cool slingshot on Volkus if you're not familiar with it. They can set up mines and tripwires, which are extra damaging, and they can create some asymmetric threats in small channels on Volkus as well doing that. And then they have the ability to kind of get out of phase dashes. So their big disadvantage on Volkus is that they can't see over a lot of the high walls, and therefore makes it very hard for them to get some shots off in particular cases. Because of visibility being an actual draw line from the head of the model in Kill Team, the tiny nature of these models can make it somewhat awkward for them to even get shots off being a shooting team. They're a very interesting team. They almost have as many advantages as they have disadvantages on Volkus. Okay, let's get into Raveners. Raveners, they are going to go into the category of wall phasers, and we're going to put them quite high up in A- because just the ability to tunnel underneath the kill zone and just pop up in your back line. They don't have to go through any walls or anything. They just burrow right under them. Just gives them a lot of asymmetric threat. They do struggle if they go on vantages because they can't burrow back down. They have to be on the kill zone floor. But just that ability to kind of get through walls where other teams would have to go through that can give them some really good threat on Volkus. All right, let's go into the Sanctifiers. So Sanctifiers, they do have some movement tech, so we're actually going to put them around about the Insidiants. They have ways of kind of doing some sneaky burst movement. It's really not as impressive as it was on launch, so it's been much reined in, but they do have some good ability to burst their movement. Okay, let's get into Scouts. Scout Squad are an interesting team. They're going to go into C+ as well. They have the ability to get out of phase dash in the strat phase as well as extra movement now. in their most recent buffs. So like the Insidian Sanctifiers, they all have these abilities to be explosive with some movement tricks when they want to be. They can also set up some traps around the board to make it harder for their opponents. So that's quite good there. Okay, we're going to put now Stealth Suits. Stealth Suits used to have fly when they were in the compendium. They used to be a team with flying. Now they only have a super climb with one operative once per turn. So I think they're going to go into B. And it feels kind of weird because the drones used to be able to fly too. So in my head from playing them last edition when they were in compendium, they actually would have been much stronger on Volkus. But now in this current edition, they don't really have too much advantage. They can kind of make it so if you go and charge them, they can retro thruster out of the way, which can be quite nice. They do have some advantages not being able to be targeted, but I just think they'd be probably top of B. So more advantages than Goremongers and Head Takers and Ratlings, but just not quite as many team-wide advantageous as these teams in A. Okay, now let's get into another. I'm going to have to put the Aquilons into S tier for Volkus. Just the ability to drop in onto a Vantage, can team-wide basically, and just have operatives come down, and they do get bonuses from dropping off of Vantages as well. Just they're geared towards flying in, and I would say that just that puts them on the S tier field. I'd say probably much less oppressive than Murderwing, but again, quite good there. Okay, interestingly, we have Vespid right after them alphabetically, and Vespid are going to go just below Murderwing. Team-wide fly can make them combine Lords of Volkus with the Murderwing. Murderwing, I think, just are still better because they're just tankier and they're just every operative is more lethal than the Vespids. And then Murderwing can also go last, ensure they go last as Space Marines, just chilling on a Vantage. So that puts them firmly at the top of S tier. But I think Volkus for Vespids feels really, really good. Again, held back by some things, but if we're just talking about Volkus, they've got to be S tier. All right, Void Dancers, they have good climbing ability built in. So they're going to go to the top of the declassified right now. And they have 7-inch move, so really good there. Warp Coven have the ability to teleport. They were an absolute menace at the start of the edition, start of this current Kill Team edition. They've been reined in, but they're going to have to probably go right around Corsairs and Void Dancers. The ability to teleport and then teleport back is quite good. We are now going to look at the Wolf Scouts. And Wolf Scouts, we're going to put them firmly at the top of limited advantages. And they have a couple of advantages. The Storm can be measured through walls on Volkus, which gives it a lot more impact. And then we can also look at the fact that they have 7-inch move. They're very fast. And just the ability to go on guard, on silent, on Volkus with the Frost Eye just puts them right at the top of B. Not many other teams can go on guard on Volkus. They're one of the very few that can. And the ability to go on guard on silent and stay on silent even after guarding makes them have quite a nice advantage on Volkus. Can make it quite tricky. Okay. Now, the top of the wall breakers, we are going to put the Rekka Crew. Rekka Crew have really, really nice synergy with Volkus because they can just break holes in walls in various points with their fighters, I believe, or Breakaboy. I believe it's their fighters, yeah. And very strong melee profile, and then just can hide in a fortress and just charge out from it. So really good there. Also can break walls and then give their squigs spots to hide and then charge out with a squig because the squigs have to stay on engage. So kind of gives their squigs a nice asymmetric threat there. And so I would say they're just that bit better on Volkus. I still think Raveners probably have the edge on them in terms of the ranking, just because that tunnel is just so powerful. Against certain matchups can feel really oppressive in a way that Rekka Crew doesn't really feel oppressive the way that Raveners can if you're playing a particular team against them. Okay, last kind of least, we have Wormblade, which are part of the declassified teams. They do have they have a dash in the strategic phase, which will put them kind of in the mid. They do have some nice anti-obscuring tech as well. So they're quite good. On Volkus, probably just right in the middle. Not as strong as these upper level teams, but Yeah, so okay, so there you have it. This is our Volkus tier list. And hopefully these tiers, the little bit of explanation gave you a really good idea of why these teams are strong on Volkus. And hopefully now you have a really good idea when you're facing each of these teams, what to look out for, and just little things to keep in mind as you're going through your games. We are going to be aiming to do one of these for Tomb World. So really excited to do that. Tomb World is a whole different set of advantages and disadvantages with these teams. So I'm really excited to see how the tier list changes based on Tomb World. All right. Thank you so much for listening. Hope that you liked this approach to a tier list. Let us know your comments if you agreed, disagreed, and we will be aiming to get our Murder Wing guide out very soon. So stay tuned for that and have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll see you very soon.